Today we're launching Agentuity version 1, a new kind of platform built for AI agents from the ground up. This is a platform where your agents deploy, run, scale, and ultimately thrive. We're not adding AI to the stack, we're rebuilding the stack for AI. We believe an agent-first platform is the future. Billions of agents will run workloads across the world, and today's software will have to be reimagined to become more agentic. This demands a fundamentally different approach to how software is built, deployed, and operated. For decades, we've solved problems with computers in a certain way. Today, cloud software is built around low latency requests, stateless transactions, and infrastructure designed for predictability over adaptability. But agentic software breaks that mold. It's not a single request and response. It's a system that reasons, remembers, and executes complex tasks. And we're quickly moving into a world where the software won't just reason or remember for a specific task, but learn and improve on its own and become smarter as it works. Every day we ask ourselves, what do agents need to be successful? How can we create the conditions in a new kind of platform that enables agents to not only operate, but to learn, experiment, and develop new capabilities and skills to get smarter and more capable over time? This is the future we are building at Agentuity. So today, we're going to show you what we've built. You'll see how Agentuity handles the full lifecycle from building agentic software to deploying and operating it at scale. And we hope you'll see why we think it's the early foundations for this new kind of agent-first platform.
My name is Aubrey Arrington. I'm the Executive Director of the Loxahatchee River District in Jupiter, Florida. We are the regional wastewater utility. We have about $200 million in assets. Many of them you can see behind me in concrete and valves and structures above ground, but the majority of them are all throughout our community underground as we serve our communities, our constituents, delivering wastewater from their homes to the treatment plant, treating that water to a very high level, recycling it then to irrigate golf courses throughout our community. So we have a wave of retirement coming, and we have good staff that do critical work, and as they age out and retire, we're looking, are there more innovative options than just hiring new staff and training them? And especially how can, as we're hiring new staff to deal with more of the technical roles, how can we take some of the mundane routine work and offload that onto agents? The idea that I can have a quote-unquote employee, which is really an agent that would be off-site, and we can email tasks to them, that agent, which functioned as an employee off-site, out-of-site, then responding back with solutions, no different than if we had a junior staff member working off-site. The ability for Agentuity to deliver results in such a convenient manner really surprised me.
Hi, my name is Joe Chung. I'm the IT manager at the Loxahatchee River District in Jupiter, Florida. So when looking at how Agentuity has helped us, we actually had very little experience with AI and machine learning, and what we thought was a complex deployment turned out to be really simple using the platform and the ability for all the agents to work together in symphony, and making sure that all of it is, have this proper compliance, security, and logging that is required for helping us deploy on that platform.
Just the spark of innovation. We're always trying to work smarter, work better. Everyone's willing to work hard, but how do you work more efficiently? And understanding the world of opportunity that these agents give us has been just eye-opening. It's really opened my mind on what's possible. And then now the next question is, how do you go execute it? And that's where Agentuity has been such a great partner in helping us transition from, oh, it's possible, to it's executable, and even at scale.
The future of software is a collaboration between agents and human ingenuity. That means the developer experience and the agent experience both have to be best in class. We've spent the last several months obsessing over what it looks like for humans to build software with agents. You should be able to build, test, and ship agentic apps in minutes, not weeks. Agents should have access to all the same tools developers do, safely with guardrails. No other platform can do this. It's sick.
Okay, here I am in the Agentuity app. Let's check out how quick it is to create a project. So we have a couple of different ways. We have the agent way, we have the human way. The human way, we provide a curl command for you to quickly install the CLI and log you in. And then a couple of commands to create, run, and deploy your project. The agent way, we provide a prompt for you to easily copy and paste into your coding agent of choice. So let's grab that, come over here, jump over to AMP, and let's let it rip. So here it's installing the CLI. Now it's going to log me in and create my project. Okay, we've spun up the dev server. All right, let's go check it out. So here's our default application. It's a translation application. So, see this work? Awesome. So we can see the evals run. We can see this request in here in the dev console. So let's go check out one of our other features, Workbench. So if you want to test agents in isolation outside of a route, you can come to Workbench. So here's our translation agent. You can check out the schema. Here's the input and the output. You can also pre-fill the input with mock data, or you can have an LLM generate a payload. There we go. Okay, now let's get this thing in production. Now we're deploying. There we go. Let's go check out our app. Now we have the same app running in production.
Bun is a first-class citizen across the entire platform because speed matters. The TypeScript SDK gives you powerful primitives that are dead simple to use for developers and agents alike. You get end-to-end type safety from your agent code all the way to the front end, ensuring you and your LSP-compatible coding agent write correct and effective code the first time. The SDK includes effortless streaming helpers and instant access to cloud services. Hano is baked in as a first-class web framework, so building APIs feels native from the start. And you don't have to start from scratch. The SDK drops right into any existing project, TanStack, Next.js, your own monorepo, it just works. We're also not trying to lock you in. Bring your own framework, your own libraries, your own LLM provider. Use what you or your agent know, swap things out when you want, and let the platform handle the rest. Let's use the default template to discover some of the features and conventions of our SDK. So this is a default template. It's a translation template. Demonstrates a lot of our SDK features and how things work. So I'm just going to jump right to the code and jump right into it. So the first thing I'll point out is you'll notice here we have several conventions. Not a lot of conventions, but they are useful, simple conventions that humans and agents both can reason about. That's easy to understand. There's an agents folder, which, as you can imagine, is where your inference, LLM calls, and agentic type software go. APIs, where, of course, that's where your APIs go, your endpoints go. And then web is where your optional front end can go. Apart from that, we don't have that many other conventions. We have a config file. And this is where you can configure your front end and also the back end. And then we have a Agentuity JSON file, which is where you can configure your project. For example, the resources. If you have a beefy resource, heavy intensive project, you can bump up the memory, bump up the CPU cores, etc. And that's it. So let's jump over to the web and we'll start from there and walk our way down. So the first thing I'll point out is this is a React app. So you'll see up at the top of line number 1, Agentuity React package. And in there is where we have our use API hooks, so you can call APIs. We have streaming helpers, streaming hooks. We have SSE and WebSocket
hooks as well. So it makes it really easy to hook into some of those more advanced streaming use cases without a lot of code, because we do that for you. And then you'll notice I jumped down to line 15 here, and this is where we're using a use API hook to call an API, which we'll look at here in a minute. And I'll point out that it's important to understand this is end-to-end type safe. From your agent to your API to your front end, it's type safe everywhere. Useful for your agents, useful for developers. And just to prove it out, I'll just show you. I'll change the string here and there. You'll see these are the backend APIs that I can call. And then if I hover over this, you'll notice there's our data from our backend. Actually, it's from our agent. I'll show you that in a minute. So end-to-end type safe, very useful. And then scrolling down, you'll notice the next thing is we have an analytics hook here. And that's because we provide web analytics as well. So this will show up as soon as you deploy. It'll show up in the web console with analytics for your front end. Now, these are React hooks, and this is a React project, but it doesn't have to be. It could be Svelte, it could be Tanstack, it could be Next. And the other thing is, you don't have to use these hooks. We actually have an RPC interface as well. So if your flavor is RPC, you can use RPC. Again, end-to-end type safe, which is really easy. And then finally, I mentioned this is a greenfield project, but brownfield works too. So you have an existing Next.js app or Tanstack app, you can use that. And then when you run Agentuity create, it'll drop an Agentuity folder in your existing project, and that will be deployed to Agentuity, and the rest of it will be deployed wherever you want to deploy your existing application. And that does it for web. Let's jump to API now. Now, the first thing I'll call out here is that this is Hano. It's Hano as you would expect. It works just like Hano. The middleware is the same. Defining an API like you see in line 8 here, API.post. There's a translate post endpoint that I can post to. It's all the same. If you're not familiar with Hano, then maybe something like Express.js, for example. It's a very familiar way to define endpoints, and both agents and developers alike are pretty familiar with this. Another thing I'll mention again, end-to-end type safety, you can define a schema here and it gets validated. In this case, you'll see in line number 8, I'm actually using the agent's schema because the agent has an input and an output. And I'm saying, hey, use that as the validation for this route. And we're using our validator. Agentuity package has its own validator, but you could use Zod. You could use some of the other compatible ones as well. But this is a dependency-free one that we offer out of the box. Another thing I'll mention here, let me just jump in here and show you the context. So with the context of a request, there's a bunch of stuff on here we give you. So we give you services, so you can access at a keystroke, key value store, sandbox, databases, etc. Just watch this, KV, I can create a namespace, I can delete a key, I can get data without setting anything up. Also authentication, so if you've hooked up Agentuity Auth, then you'll have access to the user's login information, their name, their session, their login session, etc. Another thing I'll mention is this is a post and I'm returning JSON, but you can return a stream. Again, we have all these stream helpers. You can return streams, you can handle it as a WebSocket, and then our packages for front end and agents and the back end will handle all that for you. All right, so you'll notice on line 11, we're calling this agent, this translate agent here. We've imported it here at the top and we're invoking it. So let's jump over to the agent folder now. And this is pretty simple. Let's go to a definition. So here's the agent definition. We're creating an agent. It's called translate. It, again, has a schema, an input and output for end-to-end type safety. And also, by the way, this is really useful for other agents. When an agent has to discover another agent and use it, it can use its schema to understand, oh, this is what I have to pass off to this agent, and this is what I get back. Really useful when you're using these in tool calls or other agents talking to each other. And then just like the Hano routes, they have a special context. And you'll notice here, same thing, I can access auth. So if a user invoked an agent all the way from the front end to an API to here, you can access that information. You can access the services like key value and sandboxes and queues and things like that as well. Now let's look at the LLM call here. So you notice here on line 46, we're making a completions call. We're using the OpenAI SDK here. You can use whatever you want. That's an important thing to understand here, is that we don't dictate what LLM SDK or even framework you use. You can use Mastra, you can use the AI SDK, you can use Anthropic's Agent SDK, or in this case, I'm using OpenAI's SDK. You can use whatever you need or want, but the important thing is to understand you can just use it as you're supposed to use it, and all the observability from this gets surfaced in the web console. So I make this call, and you'll see a waterfall of spans, hotel spans, and how long it took. If it made a tool call and that made an HTTP request, and then it handed off to another agent, you'll see all of that visibility without having to code all of that and stitch things together. And another thing I'll mention, you'll notice this OpenAI client, if I scroll up right here, I'm not actually dropping in the API key, and that's because we're using our AI gateway. So Agentuity has an AI gateway. If you don't define a key and you're using OpenAI or Anthropic or XAI, we will automatically use our keys for you, and we just pass through the inference. So then you don't have to go set up all these accounts and manage all these keys just to try out different models. It just works. And of course, you can use your own key if you want, and then it won't go through our AI gateway. And then maybe finally, the last thing to mention is, as you're coding things, you can actually just import another agent and invoke it, and that's an agent handoff. And it feels just like calling another JavaScript function. There's not a lot of ceremony, it just works. And again, shows up in all the traces, and we handle all the routing and communication for you. Finally, last thing to briefly mention is that we have an evals file, which is, again, following an easy convention so that you can drop in an eval, it gets deployed alongside your agent, and then you can see how your agents are doing in production with the different workloads that are getting thrown at it. And that's pretty much it for our SDK and a greenfield project.
The way I and pretty much everyone I know is building software at this point is completely different than it was even a month ago. Things are changing incredibly fast, and I've gotten to the point where agents are writing the vast majority of code for my projects. And the way I used to set things up, the way I used to structure them, the things that used to make a lot of sense are suddenly making a lot less sense. The whole idea of agent native infrastructure was something that was kind of foreign to me and I didn't really buy about a year ago. I remember when I met the Agentuity team at React Miami last year, I really liked them. I thought they were super cool and trusted that team to build something really, really sick. I really liked the platform. I liked it for the built-in AI gateway, the really easy cron jobs, the really nice dedicated environment and dev server. All of that was really, really cool. But the agent native stuff where they had primitives for everything from auth to databases to sandboxes to vector embeddings to all of these other things that they've now introduced with Agentuity V1, I didn't really see the vision on that at the time. And honestly, even 2 months ago, I didn't fully see it. I was imagining this just as something that I would stick into my existing apps and have it work that way. But having been building with this more, trying more things, in realizing that we are at the point where you can actually let the agent do basically anything, Agentuity's primitives make a lot more sense. It really feels like it's the first platform that is trying to put together a system where the agents can build anything in one place. From the front end to the back end to the cron jobs, it's all wrapped up in an Agentuity project. It's a pretty incredible set of primitives for building pretty much anything you would want to build that suddenly, with the world we're now living in, makes an insane amount of sense. These guys really get it. And I'm very, very excited to see where this goes. There's a lot of stuff they've been telling me about that I cannot wait to see them do, but even just where it is now with sandboxes, streams, storage, queues, key value databases, it's here. This is the thing that you should be giving your agents to actually have them build real projects on their own or having you write the code yourself. Because of how well they built this for agents, they also built it incredibly well for humans. I'm very impressed. They've done a great job here, and I'm looking forward to seeing what comes next.
Deploying on Agentuity is fast. We're talking seconds, not minutes. Connect your GitHub repo, every merge to main triggers a deploy, every pull request gets its own preview environment. Auto-scaling handles the rest. No more babysitting infrastructure. It's the workflow you wish you had everywhere. And agents can do all of this too, deploying agentic software and even themselves. But shipping is just the beginning. You also need to know what's happening once it's live. Observability is built in from day one. Traces, logs, and full OpenTelemetry support, so you can plug into whatever stack you're already using. And agents don't operate in isolated requests. They run across sessions and threads. We track all of that automatically. Every run is tied to a session. Every conversation thread is preserved. You get full context into what happened, when, and why, without writing a single line of tracking code yourself. So here we have my blog translator agent. It's pretty simple. It just does translation, and then it sends the output over to my blog. Let's take a look at the deployments. You can see we keep track of all the Git information, even though the GitHub plugin isn't even set up yet. We just grabbed that from the CLI. We try to make this as easy and clear as possible. If I jump into a deployment, you can see this is the resources, what region it's going to get deployed to, the agent, all the routes, who did it, if it's the live one. You can pop into build logs, and here are the logs from the client that ran on my computer when I deployed this just now. And I can see the deployment logs too. You can see this is the output straight from the process inside of Agentuity. So if you have a panic or you forgot an API key, or you're like me and you left in a console.log, whoops, you can see exactly what's going on. If I pop over into sessions, I can see sessions specifically for this deployment, but I'll see them all. You can see we keep track of all the things that's going on here. And we have pretty good telemetry here. We keep track of all the OTel spans, which, by the way, you can plug into your own stuff. See the LLM cost, we'll extract that automatically, and it should be instrumented with most major platforms. I see we have an error back here. This is a problem. Let's try it again and make sure that it's not broken. Uh-oh, no output. Must be a bug in my code. Let's see. Oh, yeah, got it again. You know, I could dig into the telemetry, but I'm just going to make the agent do it for me. I'll start the Agentuity plugin. Cloud, since this happened in Agentuity Cloud. And while he's warming up, I'll tell him what's wrong. There we go. Try to fix this session and deploy it if you have a clear fix. Looks like it's grabbing the session. Type error undefined, it's not an object. Ah, so it was my code. And there it is, I have a typo in there. That's my bad. I shouldn't have been writing the code myself anyways. Looks like it's fixing the code here. Yep, and putting in a try catch. That'll stop it from failing. Looks like the agent's running it in development locally. Sounds good to me. Let's deploy it. All right, we're deployed. Great. Oh, can I just click right into it? Let's see. Let's try it now. Hey, and it's fixed. Let's go back to sessions, and here we are, all green. All right, let's pop it open. Oh, still coming in. Hey, look at that. Looking great. And that's deploying on Agentuity.
Agents need real infrastructure to do real work. Durable streams, key value stores, databases, vector storage, sandboxes to securely execute code. And both developers and agents should be able to spin up these resources and spin them down at a moment's notice. That's why Agentuity services are baked into every part of the platform, whether that's the SDK, the APIs, or the CLI, or even the web console, so that no matter where your agents are, deployed on an Agentuity server or inside your coding agent like Claude Code, these primitives are ready to be used in an instant. These aren't add-ons or third-party integrations you have to wire up yourself or that your coding agent has to painstakingly stitch together. They're first-class primitives purpose-built for agents. That includes authentication, managing users, and on the user's behalf, impersonating a user in an agent. Lots of things like that. And for LLMs, you get unified billing across OpenAI, Anthropic, Google, Grok, xAI, and more. One bill, no complexity. We're also launching with some incredible partners. Databricks for serverless Postgres, Inbound for email infrastructure, Tigris for globally distributed object storage. We believe these partners understand the agentic future and the use cases of tomorrow. These integrations are available today, ready to use from your first deploy. Let me show you how it works. Agentuity has a myriad of services that your projects and your agents can use. If I go over here to the web app and I click on services, you'll see we have the AI gateway, which allows you to use all sorts of models without having to enter in an API key. And then there's the database service, key value store, storage, S3 compatible storage, durable streams, vector storage, and then of course sandboxes. Databases are Postgres databases that you can create as many as you need, or your agent can create them, spin them up, spin them down as they need them. And in there you have a database explorer, of course, that you can use. You can query, you can create things. This is a simple order database that I created. The other thing I'll point out here that's important, all of our services are available via the CLI, the SDK, and a few plugins as well. And so any of these things, you can always go to the top right under developer tools and you can click on it and you'll get a command on how to use this information. So for example, this run SQL query, I could click this right now and then open this up. And the same view, let me just do, what was it? It was called orders, right? So select all from orders. That same view that you see there, boom, I get it from the CLI as well. Of course, I can do JSON output as well. So we try to make that as easy as possible because agents are going to want to sometimes, especially a coding agent, is going to want to use a CLI query to get the data or to do something. Or when it's writing SDK code in our SDK and Agentuity project, you'll want the same kind of thing. So you can do that with all of the services. Key value store. In this case, this is a Redis compatible storage. I've got this simple thing here. You can upload images, you can use text, markdown, blobs, whatever. And then again, you can click on this and you can get the information just by running the CLI as well. And it's also available in the SDK. Actually, let me just show you real quick in the SDK. I'll run the server. And while that's booting up, let's just add some text. So in our default template, we run this by default. So let's say var key value, and then we'll say get hello world, and the key text dash store. And we got to await this, key equals await. And then let's console log this thing out. Logger.info key. All right, so that should have reloaded. We have hot reloading, of course. So that works. So let's jump into this thing, make sure it runs. It ran, and there you go. So we spit out hello world. So we got this from the key value store that we were just looking at. So again, everything's orthogonal. You can view it in the web. You can hit it via CLI, and then like we just saw, you can hit it via SDK. We also have S3 compatible storage. In the web, you can create storage, you can upload. Here's a photo of me at the Jupyter Inlet. You can upload things, movies, whatever. Of course, you can do it programmatically. You can, again, do it through the CLI. Agents can use it. Durable streams is also something that is a primitive that we believe all agents will use eventually. Vector storage for search and memory and things like that. And then, of course, sandboxes where you can run code, execute code, and you can even create your own snapshots and your own runtimes and upload them, which is really useful. And the other thing I'll mention is we also have a VS Code plugin. So all of that information I just showed you, I can click on the VS Code plugin, and then you'll see here, let's go to the key value that we looked at. There's the text store that we just, yeah, there it is right there, which is what we got here in the code. But you can do that with databases. You can search your vectors. You can upload, manage things. There's the screenshot from storage, streams. And then finally, we're working on coding agent plugins and integrations that kind of bends the world of software development from we just have these traditional project deployments to all of this can be available and be used by coding agents as well. So for example, if I run OpenCode, I can kick off Agentuity Cloud. We have experts and agents that will run things in our infrastructure, against our infrastructure, checking things as well. So I can actually say, Agentuity Cloud, what was that database called? Let's go get that database. Grant Wilder. Tell me what the largest order was in the Grant Wilder Agentuity database. It'll kick it off. It'll understand how to use all of our stuff, and it'll just work. I've done this personally with a huge data set of 10,000 rows where it uploaded a Postgres database with all sorts of tables and information and then ran a bunch of reports. It spat it out. And then I was done with it, and it just deleted the database after that. So this idea of ephemeral services that are primitives that agents need to use, whether that's in my local laptop here in OpenCode or it's running in a server in a cloud in Agentuity, kind of bends the world and how we think about how to approach things. And there you go, there's the answer. So those are just some examples of our services that we have, and they're all available today to be used.
On the one hand, it feels like capabilities of agents are changing every day, and it feels really hard to keep up. But on the other hand, there are a few core truths that I think we now actually all understand. One of them is that the capabilities are just going to continue to change. And as such, the value of being fast and agile as you adapt existing workflows to the capabilities of the models is going to be one of the keys of success. And that's why you need clear platforms and clear ways of working. And someone like Agentuity is going to be so important to that.
Agents that can execute code need somewhere safe to do it. We've seen this pattern emerge time and time again. An agent needs to spin up a secure environment, run some code, and tear it down, all without touching your production infrastructure. There are entire companies charging you separately for this. We think this is table stakes. It belongs in your core infrastructure, not as another line item or something you have to integrate. Sandboxes on Agentuity are isolated, ephemeral environments where agents can execute anything safely. You get multiple runtimes out of the box, Bun, Python, a headless browser, Claude Code, Codex. The lifecycle is fully managed. Create, execute, destroy. It's all automatic. And if you need to preserve state between runs, Sandbox Snapshots lets you pick up right where you left off. With Agentuity Sandboxes, we provide a pre-configured set of runtimes that you can very easily launch your sandboxes. They have all the different tools and capabilities, and we've split them up into different types of runtimes, and we'll continue to increase these types of runtimes over time. For example, we have language-based runtimes, Node, Python, Golang, Bun, etc. We have agentic runtimes, Claude Code, Codex, etc. And then we have testing type runtimes. So the Playwright, for example, if you're going to do Playwright browser automation, or we have like a headless browser automation, your runtime as well to make it even easier for agents to be able to do this automation themselves. We also have another concept called snapshots. A snapshot basically is a runtime plus your sandbox instance, and you can then snapshot it as you add files or environment variables or dependencies, etc. You can take snapshots of that runtime and restart a runtime from a snapshot. You can version them, etc. And we also have public snapshots, which I won't get into much today in this demo, but we also have prepackaged public snapshots that you can also just quick launch. So let's start with a really simple demo. Let's just launch the Copilot. And I'm going to basically just launch this in the US Central Region. That's where I'm at. And let me just launch that. You'll see it launches really fast. Gives you just a quick overview of the sandbox we just launched, and we're going to run some stuff in the sandbox. Okay, so first let's just launch it by jumping in the sandbox via SSH. So up in here in this right little corner here, you can jump right into the sandbox. I'm going to SSH directly into the sandbox, and I'm just going to run, just a couple of commands, just so you can see. Let me clear that. Okay, nothing in the sandbox yet, but we're in the sandbox. I could put things into the sandbox and then snapshot it. For now, let's just run Copilot. All right, so you'll see Copilot's going to start right up and do its little thing. And then we have to trust it. Let's go ahead and do that. And let's pick a different model, and let's just pick, I don't know, GPT-4.1. And then let's just give it a really simple, this is GPT-4.1, so let's just give it a really simple prompt just to show manually how we can do this. So write let's just call this a fizz buzz JavaScript program, and then run it. Let's just say, write the output to fizz buzz, I don't know, let's see, fizz buzz text. How about that? We'll see how well it does. Okay, now remember, we're inside of a sandbox. Having an agent run securely, has very narrow access. Okay, there we go. It's writing is going to ask you. And then yes, let's just run that and see what it comes up with. All right, pretty simple task, obviously. So let's just exit out of that. You kind of get the point. Now this is all secure. Let's just exit out of this, and then let's go back to the dashboard and see what we've got here. Okay, so first off, let's just click on Files, and let's see what's in the sandbox. And you can see it did write this fizzbuzz.js file, and then it did execute it. You can sort of see your output here. So Nothing super impressive there. We can move files and folders to and from the sandbox automatically. Of course, we can do all of this programmatically, and we can do all this agentically as well. The other nice thing is, we can get a bunch of information about different executions that we're doing. So for example, here, if I want to then LSLA and see what's in, I can just execute one-off commands inside the sandbox. And then of course you can see all the different commands that are being executed inside the sandbox automatically. So that's just kind of a nice quick overview of sandboxes. As I said earlier, I can snapshot this sandbox, give it a tag, give it some information, and I can keep going over and over and over, and you can sort of see the lineage of that sandbox. But let's do something a little more interesting. Okay, so this is kind of a demonstration of me kind of using the sandbox, not really programmatically, but it kind of explores a little bit of the capabilities of the sandbox. But let's make this a little bit more agentic. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to destroy that sandbox, and let's just go over here to our trusty terminal, and then I'm going to use AMP code because that's one of my favorite coding agents, and I've got it in rush mode. So let's give it a prompt, and let's ask our agent to do some things for us. And we want to test a website that we're building. So I have this SDK Explorer website that we use to test out a bunch of capabilities. And you can see it's pretty easy. It just has an input field, and it has some code on the right, and it has this little button, say hello, and it'll just sort of echo back. So it's a pretty simple example. So let me just test this, and let's go test this from an agentic standpoint. So I'll take that URL, and let's go back to our coding agent, and let's ask our coding agent to use sandboxes to navigate to this site and do some testing. So let's say create a sandbox and navigate, let's say, to that URL and enter some text and click the button. Right? That's just what we might want it to do. Then take a screenshot of the page after getting the response and saving it to a file locally. Okay. Now, again, if I was to do this in any other system, I'd have to provision machines and do a bunch of automation and, et cetera. But like, we just want the agent to be able to do this. I'm obviously giving it a prompt, but the agent's going to go out and fully agentically do this. So let's see how it does. I'm using the rush model here, so it's pretty relatively fast. It doesn't do the deep thinking. Okay, here we go. It's creating a sandbox. Okay, again, agentically using the CLI, it knows everything about how to do the different commands. It's navigating now to this page. We can sort of follow it along as it does it. Okay, it went to the page. It's going to take a snapshot of the page. It understands the accessibility of the page. So it's kind of discovering what capabilities are. Now it's entering some information into that discovered input field. Enter your name. It clicked the browser, or clicked the button rather. It figured out that say hello is the button. It took a screenshot. It then copied that screenshot from the sandbox to my local drive. It's going to delete the sandbox. And let's see what happens at the end here. Okay, it deleted the sandbox, and let's see what happened. It created a PNG file, and okay, done, entered it, and it told us what it did, and then it told us the file, and there you go. AMP user, and there's the screenshot. So I think it's a really powerful example of what you can do with sandboxes. You can of course have your agents use sandboxes to do secure things or isolated things, or even in a sub agent, if you wanted to spin up a bunch of different sub agents to test or execute a bunch of different tasks for you. You can of course do this in the runtime, in the Agentuity runtime, in the Agent SDK. If you wanted to have some sort of task coming in from the user and you want to spin that off into a sandbox and go do some things. But what a really powerful primitive that we have, all built into the platform and all available for you today.
Agents can go sideways. They execute code, make tool calls, handle customer requests, and sometimes they get it wrong. You need to know when that happens, not after a customer complains, but immediately. Most eval providers are evaluating the LLM, that the bot will respond appropriately, which it's fine for chatbots, but agents aren't single calls. They're entire runs. Multiple LLM calls, tool executions, orchestration, working in tandem. We eval the entire thing, and we run evals on every single session, in production, not just during development. Real users, real traffic, real behavior, evaluated continuously. Eval results also show up as spans in your OTel traces, so you can debug issues in line with the rest of your observability stack. So here we are on the evaluation screen for a project, and as you can see, we have a lot of good information to give you an understanding of how your agent's performing over time. We have some stats up top, but we also have a chart showing you what that progress looks like. If we scroll down, we also show you all the evaluations that are running across your agents, and you can see information about those as well. It's important to note that these evals are run on every production session, not just during development like most other eval providers. Unlike what you're used to, we're not evaling just LLM calls that test whether or not the model responded appropriately. Instead, we're evaling the entire agent run. That may include multiple model calls, multiple tool calls, business logic, and more. Here we have two different evaluations, one for language matching and one for adversarial. So let's take a look at those. Here in our Agentuity project, you can see that we have an eval file. One of the first things you might notice is that we're importing a preset eval from the Agentuity SDK. In this case, the adversarial eval, but we have others as well, such as PII, safety, and more. If we look at the code for this eval, you'll see that we also have the ability to transform the input and the output, but that's completely optional. If you want, you can also build your own custom evals. So let's take a look at the language check eval that we've written. As you can see in this eval, we're going to use an LLM call as a judge of the response. In this case, we're going to pass in the language that the user was requesting we translate to and the text that they requested to be translated. We're then going to ask the LLM to judge whether it was done correctly. From there, we return the result, which includes whether or not it passed and any reason that we may want to include as well. You can also pass a score along from 0 to 1 if you would like to have a little more granularity over your results. Let's go ahead and try a request. Here we have our standard translation agent template, and we're requesting to translate this phrase into Spanish. If we go back to our eval page, we can refresh it and see the result. And it looks like there was a problem with this translation. If we scroll down, we can click on recent failures and find out more information. As we see, we've got the failure here that says the text is written in French and not Spanish, which was what we requested. If we hop back into Cursor, let's try and use an agent to figure out what went wrong. I've already got a prompt written up here that's going to ask the agent to investigate why the eval failed and then try and find a solution. As you can see, it's going to use the CLI to go and retrieve those latest evals. Now with that information, it's going to go investigate and try and find the problem. And here we are. It looks like we had a hard-coded language in there, and it's gone ahead and given us a suggested fix for this.
This is the year that agents actually take over the enterprise. It's happening. We're going to move to a world where agents outnumber humans first 10 to 1, then 100 to 1, and then 1,000 to 1. And in that world, you just can't bolt on agents to legacy systems. You're going to have to rewire the entire infrastructure and your architecture beneath them. Humans simply won't be able to keep up anymore. You'll need agents to build workflows, deploy them, manage them, secure them, and scale them continuously. And that's a real shift that's going to happen in 2026. Execution itself must become agent native. And this is the early formation of what we at Boldstart call the autonomous enterprise, where the enterprise becomes a living system, not just a collection of apps and agents.
We're building Agentuity in the open, and we want you to be a part of it. Our documentation is packed with cookbooks, guides, and real-world examples to get you building fast. One of my favorite tools is the SDK Explorer. It lets you dig into every primitive and see exactly how it works. The Explorer lets you learn by doing, covering key concepts you've now seen in action: storage, streaming, evals, sandboxes, and more. Now, of course, we've got a lot of ways that you can have your agents access information about Agentuity, from agent.md files when you spin up a project, to our documentation. But for humans, learning by doing is one of the best ways to understand something. And so, with each example in the Explorer, you get an interactive demo that you can try out, as well as reference code on the right that shows you more of the full capabilities of the SDK. So in this case, for the handler context, you can see how we access session data using the context.sessionID, as well as things like threads for unique conversation history. You can also view the code to see how the Explorer works under the hood, and get more information about how the agents within the Explorer actually work. And again, that reference code on the right is running in an actual sandbox, so when you click run, we'll spin up a sandbox and actually give you the output from that. So you should be able to see more of how this specific feature works beyond just the interactive demo there. Let's go ahead and take a look at an example end-to-end with the vector search or vector storage. First thing you'll notice is at the top, we give you a nice description that'll give you some just-in-time learning. So if you're unfamiliar with how vector search works and how it uses embeddings to search by semantic meaning rather than keyword matches, that description should give you a nice overview. In this case, we've loaded a sample document, so we can just go ahead and search against it. And under the hood, we'll go ahead and perform a vector search and give you an AI recommendation. So you can see that output there. And again, on the right, we'll give you some reference code. So this will walk through the full API for vector storage. So you can go ahead and take a look at how you would upsert and add a document, how you would search against that document. In this case, we're just hard coding a query. We can go ahead and use the Agentuity logger to print that out, and then go ahead and clean up using the context.vector.delete. So let's go ahead and run this. So again, it'll spin up that agent with this reference code. And you'll see at the end that we get the info logs as well as the output from that search that we made. And again, the Explorer is for humans, but in case you or your coding agents need more information, we also link to our documentation from each example. So in this case, with vector storage, you get this page that gives you more information, when you would use it versus other storage APIs, as well as best practices and more examples of how to use these APIs in more than just agents, so in routes as well. And you also get some nice quick examples. But for more information and more tutorials, we've got our cookbook section that gives you step-by-step guides, as well as key patterns that you can copy and paste into your existing projects. But docs only go so far. The real magic happens when you connect with other builders. Join us on Discord. It's where we hang out, answer questions, and share what we're working on. The SDK is also open source, so if you want to contribute, we'd love to have you. We're also proud to be launching alongside some fantastic partners building on Agentuity. Johan at 11.2, Press W, Quest, and more. These teams are already shipping real agentic software on the platform, and one of them, CodeExitos, has been helping clients go AI first from day one.
I'm Charles Fry. I'm the CEO and founder of CodeExitos, and we're a digital product development studio. And for the last 20 plus years, we've been helping entrepreneurs, innovators, and large corporations build and launch digital products. The way that our business has changed is pretty dramatic, and I think we're representative of the leading edge of what's going to roll through businesses. We're embracing that, and we see AI as an enablement tool for our developers and an augmentation tool. AI, either in an LLM or an agentic or a combination, it impacts everything. I mean, we literally take an AI first approach unless the client just says, no, this is a set ERP application, we just want it to be a web app. To think of digital workers, we write job descriptions, we give them names, we specify the skills that they have, and when we give that to the engineers, it really serves as almost the product requirements and quasi-architectural requirements of how we approach the agentic orchestration. Yeah, we get asked for AI predictions daily, certainly weekly. It's not so important about what the future is going to be. It's about getting the first steps taken. Because it's not going away. Taking steps into AI and agentic AI and figuring out how your organization wants to use them, what are your ethical and principle boundaries for your company, how would they apply to AI in your company. These are just early stage things, but it's going to keep coming, and it's going to come fast, and it's going to be exciting.
Not every workload belongs in the public cloud. Some data can't leave your network. Some regulations demand it stays on-prem. Some customers need agents running at the edge, close to where decisions are made. Most platforms force you to choose. We don't. The Gravity Network is how Agentuity meets you where you are. In our public cloud, you get global deployment with instant availability, zero config deploys, and automatic scaling from 0 to thousands of requests. But if you need more control, deploy the same platform inside your own VPC, on premises, across multiple clouds, or at the edge. Run hybrid configurations across all of them. Your agents get the same capabilities regardless of where they live. The same SDK, the same services, the same observability. This isn't a bolt-on feature or a separate product. It's the same platform, same infrastructure, deployed wherever you need it. Your data stays where it needs to stay, your agents run where they need to run. One platform, anywhere. So let's deploy an Agentuity node to our own VPC in Google Cloud and connect to Agentuity's Gravity Network and run an agent on it. We've built a skill to help with this, but it's not very many commands. We support AWS, Azure, and even on-premise, like VMware, but I'm going to do Google Cloud. So authentication works using public and private keys. So the first thing this is going to ask me to do, aside from configure my Google Cloud environment, is generate a public and private key for us to use. Fortunately, I have this information right here. All right, let's get started. We're going to generate a private key. This will be for my organization and kept secret from Agentuity. I should see it now. There it is. Let's create the corresponding symmetric key. All right, now we just have to register our public key with Agentuity. So this is using the CLI. All right, now we've configured our org so that now the machines we're running are going to get all of our workloads. We're done configuring Agentuity. Now what we need to do is in our own VPC in Google Cloud here, we need to deploy an instance that's configured with the private key so that I can generate a challenge and connect. So in order to do that, we're going to create a secret, but you can use other methods of providing the Agentuity node with your private key. All right. Got that in storage. Now let's deploy our VM. Let's do it in East. I'll just say East C. Great. You'll notice we're using a large instance type and a large disk. Bun workloads are pretty small. You don't necessarily always need this much. All right, looks like it created our VM. It's going to take a minute, like it says, for it to fully initialize. It needs to move some runtime stuff onto this disk and also pull some other things around our runtime, especially for sandboxes. So this is going to take a couple minutes. We can run this now and see that it says nothing. And until it starts up, it'll say no machines found. Machines are created on the fly. It'll store some state on the machine so that if you need to reboot or something like that, it won't create a new one. Let's give this a couple minutes. All right, let's see if it's ready. Yep, there it is, it's running. I think if I refresh my Google page, there it is. All right, let's put a workload on it. I'll use the defaults here. Let's deploy. Now, since we've configured our public key with Agentuity, all deployments will be going to our new node that we set up. Another cool thing is that public key is pulled down by the CLI in the step. You see encrypt. It uses that to encrypt using that public key so that even Agentuity can't reach the source code of this deployment. It's only stored encrypted on our side. All right, looks like it's all set up. We should be able to go, well, let's just hit it and see if it works, huh? There it is, running through Agentuity's gateway inside the machine. We should be able to go to machine list, grab our machine. This is deployment 213. And there's our deployment running. You can hop into the box, it's yours, and go see what's going on. Remember, this is all running within the VPC. So any internal services you need to reach that you don't want Agentuity access to, you can. Another cool thing is Agentuity is connecting to a single IP address for the Gravity network, which means your firewall rule for Agentuity is an IP address and an HTTPS connection. It does everything over gRPC, including packet routing. And that's it, I'm all set up. Everyone in my org can now deploy on-premise using Agentuity's network.
We started Agentuity because we believe the world is about to change in ways we all haven't fully realized. Agents aren't a feature, they're not a plug into your ID or a new terminal interface. Agentic software is a fundamental shift in how software gets built, deployed, and operates. We're not here to add AI to the old stack. We're here to build a new platform from the ground up to be fully agentic. The companies that win in the next decade won't be the ones who bolt on agents and chatbots onto their legacy infrastructure. They'll be the ones who build natively for this new world where software reasons, remembers, and learns and self-improves alongside humans, where agents plus human ingenuity create a new kind of software for a new kind of world. Whether you're a solo developer with an idea, a startup moving fast, or an enterprise ready to transform, we built Agentuity for you and of course your agents. The platform is ready, the community is growing, and we're just getting started. Come build the future with us.